Long ago, in a forgotten village at the edge of a vast and whispering forest, there lived a poor boy named Elias. He was no one special, not the son of a knight, not the heir to a throne, not gifted with strength or wealth. He was the village water carrier. Each morning, before the sun stretched its golden arms across the land, Elias would take 2 wooden buckets and walk the winding path through the trees to the cold river. He filled them to the brim, hoisted them over his shoulders, and traveled from house to house, giving water to those who needed it. Most days he was greeted with tired smiles. Other days he was ignored. A few mocked him, calling him Bucket Boy. But Elias never complained. He simply bowed his head and carried on. He lived with his sick father in a 1-room cottage. Their meals were simple, but Elias was grateful. He believed that every task, no matter how small, held a kind of magic if done with heart. One dry summer, a royal messenger arrived in the village. The king had fallen ill, and the ministers feared for the future of the kingdom. They announced a call for a new apprentice, not someone with noble blood, but someone with character. A proclamation was read. Let all young men of age and will present themselves at the hall of trials. The one who proves his worth, not by birth but by heart, shall be trained to serve the realm beside the crown. The village buzzed with excitement. Sons of merchants and blacksmiths prepared. Some hired scribes to write glowing letters. Others practiced speeches or boasted of their plans. Elias said nothing. At dawn the next morning he carried his last bucket of water, made sure his father was resting, then quietly began walking to the capital, alone, with only his worn cloak and steady heart. The hall of trials stood tall and cold, carved from stone and lit by torchlight. Inside were 50 boys, all stronger, louder, and more confident than Elias. The first challenge was a test of knowledge, history, language, and logic. Elias struggled. He could barely read, but he listened carefully, asked questions, and never gave up. The second challenge was physical. The boys ran, climbed, and lifted. Elias wasn't fast, but his years of carrying water made him surprisingly strong and enduring. He moved quietly, never complaining, never quitting. The final trial was different. Each boy was given a task. One helped a blindfolded stranger cross a courtyard. Another guided a lost child through a maze. Another repaired a broken wheel. No rewards were offered. No praise was given. While others rushed through or complained, Elias helped carefully. He spoke gently, offered his own coat to the child, and stayed until the broken wheel turned smoothly again. What he didn't know was that every task was being watched. Hidden behind a curtain, the king's seer was observing, not looking for strength or knowledge, but for humility, kindness, and patience. 3 days passed. On the final evening, the boys gathered in the courtyard. The royal guard stepped forward and read aloud, "By decree of His Majesty and the wisdom of the High Seer, the one chosen to stand beside the crown is Elias, the water carrier." The crowd fell silent. Then came the disbelief. "Him?" someone said. "He's just a servant." But the seer stepped forward and said, "This boy served without asking. He listened without pride. He worked without praise. That is the strength our kingdom needs." From that day on, Elias no longer carried buckets. He carried scrolls and books, learning law, diplomacy, and the ways of the court. His hands stayed rough, but his heart stayed humble. Years later, when the king passed away and the crown was offered to Elias, the people wept, not because a servant had become a ruler, but because the right man had risen. And though Elias ruled wisely and justly, he never forgot the river, the wooden buckets, or the peace of the forest path at sunrise. They still tell his story today. Do your work, whatever it may be, with pride and patience. For even a boy who carries water may one day carry a kingdom.